Wait, nope. Try it again. There we go.
Live streaming is on.
It's nice.
Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is November 5, 2021. We want to thank Clinton Ignatoff and his amazing podcast called Concerned Netizens. Thank you, Clinton, for helping us out. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Ethan Persoff. Is that the correct way?
Yeah, that's all of it.
And Ethan, tell us where you're calling in from.
I'm calling in from Austin, Texas today.
How cool.
Yeah.
I'm in Venice, California, and the first question is,
nice.
What's the best thing for a human being?
Magnesium.
Now that seems...
No, I can explain that. Like,
that's exactly what I want to hear. How do you explain
well, I guess it's between magnesium and turmeric, right? But both of those are, I think both of them make curcumin in your body, CIRCUMIN, and that is a really beneficial for neuroplasticity and just sort of a good flexible, brain. I'm a big magnesium nut. I think it's do you have a water heater at home?
We do, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what kind of rod you have in there for the water heater? I've talked about this on my show before, but you can get magnesium rods in the anode rods in the water heater, which will just add magnesium into your water whenever you want.
Which is good. So what's neuroplasticity in the lay?
Yeah, I didn't mean to throw you off there with that, but
no, just in layperson's terms.
Yeah, no, just a flexible head, like a flexible I think the country itself is suffering from a lack of neuroplasticity. People are the more rigid and just think about the brain as a flexible, piece of plastic, and neuroplasticity would allow thoughts and general brain health, basically mood health.
And brain health. That's good. Yeah. And it's like open-mindedness.
Yeah, basically like a way to add consciousness to yourself without having to. I mean, other things certainly help, but in terms of your awareness on the planet, but yeah, avocados are really good too. But your question was, what was? Repeat your question. I'll try.
No, you answered it well. It's what's the best thing for a human being? Because
I guess also
go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking. I mean, I guess for a more fun way, the best thing is to maintain communication with yourself. Not let other people tell you how to think or anything like that.
Wow, that's really heavy. Well, you anticipated about 50% of all the questions, so that was really good. What's your favorite? Yeah, really cool. Sorry. And you get it because we're just here to have fun and catch.
This is a game show, right? What have I won?
No, one of my big lectures once they complained, they go, "You were like a TV host." I goes, "Dude, what's wrong with that?"
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That was a fun question, by the way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, thank you. What is your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Magnesium. No, I'm kidding.
That is good.
Yeah. What is my favorite form of communication?
No, of information.
Information.
Yeah. And again, Ethan, just to clarify, when I use these words, you can put the words into the context you want. So like you just
that's fun.
Yeah, you just
changed. This is a good show, Jerry.
Yeah, well, you just changed information to communication. That's fine. But basically how information comes into you.
That's another really interesting question, because there's this idea that, I mean, we're in a constant state of filtering information, like radio is a great example of a tuner on a radio is designed just to say, listen to this one part of the radio that is around you, the 200 stations that are around you. Just listen to this one station right now. but all 200 of those local stations or radio frequencies are around you constantly. So I'm always sort of thinking, and there's an idea that, there's a concept about acid being a state of opening up all the filters, that you're not really hallucinating so much as actually seeing all the different ways that our mind can perceive things at once.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I'm going there. It's Friday morning, so I guess I'm just thinking about like.
That's all right. I love the radio.
But yeah, yeah, I'm a big radio fan. I like random, uncontrolled information, so I like shortwave radio a lot. I like to have as many accidents with perceiving something, and that includes hearing like hate speech by accident or something like that. Anything that I'm not in an intended audience for is thrilling for me. So I guess if I wanted to make a sane answer, it would be I love radio a lot.
Perfect. I am totally a radio person too.
Yeah.
Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Oh gosh. Stage 2. This is like we're into stage 2. Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, why do humans collect or gather information?
Man, my perspective today is really kind of aggressive. I would say to win over other civilizations.
Dude, that is really good, because 98% of people go survive. Well, I know it's to survive, and that's good. And what I'm really after in this series is sort of like deeper thought. So you've already hit 3 home runs, grand slam.
Thank you. It's the beautiful background you have there. It's all the life you have in the back. I'm very envious. Did you say Venice that you're at right now in California?
Yeah.
Damn,
which is funny because I've done every podcast inside my home, and my wife's sleeping, so I thought, well, I'll just give her a break. And there's not a lot of yard noise, so if it gets noisy, I might go inside. But the next question is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented? Now, a lot of these at the beginning or some of these questions are either or. It doesn't mean it's. I know innate, it depends. Yeah,
innate or invented. Well, I mean, that sounds like a historic question, right? So I think, a lot of sort of historic history. I still think it goes back to, I think that goes back to dictators or leadership or whatever, or oral. That's interesting. Oral traditions where you pass it down. How would you define innate? How would you?
That's a really, you really win, because answering a question with a question is what this series is all
I'm
about.
Jewish. I'm just, yeah.
It's like that's what we're here for, to invent new questions. But I usually, it's a really good question, and I usually define innate as we're probably innate to eat food. But right.
So I think it's probably invented then, because my cat, that I think the more we've developed into conscious human beings, the more we've been aware of things like being in the, like memory and nostalgia and shit like that. I mean, I have some incredibly intelligent cats, and they don't have they have no innate desire to write stuff down or anything. I think it also comes down again just to like battling with other people. Like, look at the very silly problem we have with the Second Amendment right now. That's purely built off like off a history. They have invented its justification is that it exists. Yeah. It's like its justification on the Second Amendment is, well, it exists, and it has existed for 2 centuries. We invented it. We probably were kind of fucking up when we were making up like the Bill of Rights or whatever, but we invented it, so it exists. So it's suddenly, religious in terms of its value,
Right.
So, I don't know. You have good questions. You have good questions. I want to hear the lawnmower too.
Do thoughts create emotions?
Yes. That's anxiety.
Oh, that was a fast one. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's anxiety right there. Like,
Yeah.
Feelings and thoughts are completely connected. I would go to the mat on that, and I'm not even like a licensed therapist. I would insist.
That is good. I'd go.
But you can feel you can feel something without a thought. Like music will make you feel something without thinking.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Is thinking more innate or more invented?
Oh, wild. That's fun, man. You're a fun guy to talk with. Wild. This actually, to go back to cats, and dogs and other, some of my best relationships have always been with non-human or birds or even insects. Like if a spider, like we have wolf spiders in our house, which are completely passive, at least to humans. They're wonderful. I don't know if you've ever seen a wolf spider, but they can grow to the size of a $50 and hop. They're wonderful. But they think something if you come up to them and move away. Some would say that's instinct. Or natural response, but a cat certainly thinks something, and they don't have language. So I've often wondered, like a cat looks at you and then looks up at like the food bowl, or looks up at the, like one of our cats, she will come up and she'll look at us and she'll be like, she'll try and communicate to us what she's trying to say. Let's say there was something over here. She's like, there's something in here, and she'll look at it. What is she thinking?
Right.
That she's not thinking a word. I don't know if that sounds too stoned.
No, you made it clear because it's I call it anthropomorphizing. The cat doesn't necessarily have the word. They don't have words. They might not have the word thinking in their makeup, but we anthropomorphize by our observation that. But let's move on because you got it well.
Wouldn't that be wild though to like think? I guess what I mean. You asked too. You got those questions right, Jerry. Here I'm going to flip this right back. You were correct in those questions. No, because there's two questions. One, you're asking about like thought and anxiety, thought and
emotion,
like anxiety.
Dude, thought create emotions.
But how amazing would it be to think something without words? To just
that's, dude. You really have ESP because that's two questions down. But I'll just ask it now. Can humans think without language?
I would love to. I mean, actually, you know what, dude? I hope you're not indulging me too much by saying like these are good answers or whatever. But this is really stimulating. I mean, I think our stomach does,
right.
And so that's kind of wild. Like, have you ever heard about the second brain theory of there's the mind that we're looking out of, and then the mind down in our gut that handles a lot of our. I'm not a neuroscientist, but I just but I do love the idea of the stomach managing a lot of thought. Well, isn't that modern psychotherapy too? Is that you think you have a lot of control over what you're aware of, and that there's all this subconscious shit that they just want to uncover through weird questions, and then you get these aha moments. And so I think it's folly to think that we have access to every thought in a translated sense.
I like that word folly. And it's also George Lakoff saying, 80% of what you're doing is controlled by the subconscious or unconscious. We think the other way, we're consciously. But, again, this is just people thinking. And we don't know if thinking is, we're going to get to that question. Way down the line that you evoke there. But this is the next one. I don't know what I think until I fill in the blank. What would you fill in the blank?
Oh, wild. Let me try and be concise. I don't know what I think until I guess react.
Nice. Now I got it from McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan,
Which is, yeah. Well, you know, which is, I think the problem we have that's cool too. I mean, there's also like the beat concept of first thought, best thought, or whatever, you know, to write that you should never edit. I disagree with that, but I like the idea. But there's I think right now, this whole problem we have with COVID and survival and people just getting so upset about masks and other things is that they think when other people say something, you know, it troubles me, you know. I don't really want to go down that, but I think it would be better if people just sort of trusted themselves instead of said something, then looked over to see if like 5 or 10 people agree with them or whatever.
Right. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. But
whoa,
one of my favorite answers is a couple weeks ago. This guy's a normal person, you know, kid, wife, job. And I says, I don't know what I think until I fill in the blank. He says, get drunk.
Well,
which is an amazing answer.
That's true too. I mean, well, he probably has a filter that he needs to mellow out. He probably has a lot of anxiety that, you know, yeah, right. Totally.
Yeah. But it is like anything, like if you're drinking coffee right now, that's altering you, and it could go, that helps me think, and that's fine.
Oh, no doubt. I in fact have coffee that I'm finishing. I'm about to do a product placement unintentionally for some Coke Zero, which has aspartame in it. Total poison. You know, but I'm gonna like love it. I love that aspartame.
That's good. So Chomsky says,
oh gosh,
yeah, he says a language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history of what creates what community is. Ethan, what do you do when language breaks down, when it doesn't work? What do you do?
Oh gosh. Is the action of do, you mean in with somebody else or internally? What is define do?
Yeah, again, you put in the context you want. I mean, if you go, when language breaks down to myself, or, you know, in general, you'd think, well, when language breaks down with others, but it's just when language doesn't work, because he's saying,
well, I would say, okay, it's weird because I actually put that into a relationship context, and I'm very proud of, this is going to sound sentimental or stupid, but I'm very proud of my marriage. I'm very proud of the relationship I have with my wife. And you seem proud too, because you mentioned your wife is sleeping. So you're considerate. So you're going to come outside. Yeah. Yeah. So I think you understand there that like that good pairings of people, or regardless of gender, I think comes down to, there's going to be moments where words don't work, and you just got to fucking like communicate through all the other signals, like listening and empathy, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's like, for whatever reason, I thought of just sort of keeping the peace with somebody.
Yeah. No, that's a good answer. Yeah, that's a good answer. Let's move on, because what do you do when language doesn't work? You engage empathy. So that's good. Yeah. So your general feeling, I know it's both and it depends. Your observations of humans, are they more thinking or more feeling beings?
Oh, dude, I will tell you exactly what my feelings of other humans are right now. I need to improve on it, because presently it's a lot of judging. I'm a little fed up with a lot of people. Like, you're one of the good ones, buddy. But like, a lot of fucking humans are really bothering me. So, in fact, I took Myers-Briggs a lot of times over my life, and I actually went through I used to be INFP, introverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving, and something happened about 15 years ago where I became an INFJ, and so I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry, I got sort of lost.
No,
in the
that was let's
let's
go. Ethan, go back for 1 second.
Yeah.
INFP is intuitive. What's the N stuff?
No. Introverted, intuitive. I could be wrong on this. There might be a Myers-Briggs.
Introverted. And then
Yeah.
the second one is an N, right?
Yeah, which is intuitive.
Oh, you just intuitive is that. And then
let me double check that. I'm going to use the internet while we're talking to look.
That's
this up.
fine. But is this a term for psychoanalysis?
Well, it is it's kind of a hack. Myers-Briggs is
Myers-Briggs. Oh,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Oh, okay.
the MBTI or whatever. It's and the only reason I'm pointing it out, I don't trust it.
Right.
Hold on, I lost you here. Looking for one moment. I don't. There we go. I don't trust Myers-Briggs in a huge amount, although I love psychological tests and stuff. So, but yeah, it's basically all I was trying to point out there is that I went through a couple moments of my life where I think when you're insecure, you don't want to, you're surviving. And so you get into like other kind of hokey ideas like Maslow's triangle or stuff like that. These are all ideas of how to survive. But I think the less secure or less safe you feel around a group, the less you're going to assess the group critically, because you want that group to love you or to enjoy your fucking company or something like that. And in those instances, I am very perceiving, but then I kind of developed some insight into groups. I have, or my own prejudice is actually not with people, not with anything but groups. I don't trust more than three or four people against one person, and so that's where I become kind of more of a judge. I don't really trust group thought.
That's Groucho Marxism 101. I'd never be a member of a group that would have me as a member.
Yeah. Charles Bukowski, if you see the crowd go in the opposite direction. Yeah.
Is that what he says? Oh,
yeah. Wherever the crowd goes, go the opposite. Yeah. But I'll take. But I'm a Marxist. I'm a big.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, Charles Bukowski, because I was also going to say, bringing up psychological tests. The great story about Leary was busted and they gave him a psychological test and he said, I wrote this test.
I think Richard Alpert might say, actually, I did,
Yeah. And so here's two Alan Turing questions from 1950.
Please. This is awesome. This is great. We should do this every week. All right.
Dude, I do. Is thinking a function of the soul?
It has to be. I think it might be. And he was autistic, or at least spectrum, I think. So that's an interesting question for him. And it's also sad too when you think about his sexuality and just sort of how deep that must have been for him. It has to be. I think thinking is probably an expression of the soul. Yeah.
Can machines think?
Yes.
Wow. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Wow. I think it's if then. First happiness, then meaning.
Yeah.
I think if you're going at it for meaning, you're never going to be happy. But if you can be happy, you can find meaning in the smallest shit, and you become thankful.
Well, Viktor Frankl is where I got the question from, basically, because he says meaning lasts, but happiness doesn't necessarily last.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's true. I mean, I struggle with being in the moment with thought. So that's interesting, but I'm very capably in the moment with feeling. So like right now, you and I are having a good conversation, and I'm in a good mood. And so I'm probably going to be in a good mood for the rest of my life. But if I were to say, but if I were to think about it, it would be difficult for me to be in this moment, right, for the rest of my
Yeah.
life. But if I get sad or struggle, I struggle with anxiety or whatever, in those moments it feels as permanent as a good mood. And so that's really wild, even if it only is going to last 5 minutes.
Beautiful. Ethan, does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we creating it?
Oh, that's a great question. I want to answer that after I ask you. What do you think?
Well, that one I've been asking for about 20 years. So usually I refer to how people have taken it, and they usually go, well, I'm not a neuroscientist. I go, well, I'm not asking if you're a neuroscientist.
Okay, well,
I'm
no,
I'm saying your hunch. But I'm saying your hunch. So, I mean,
yeah.
I think to be on the positive belief that humans are doing in something and we're not, it's destiny and fate, that we're like helping create consciousness, because they think sometimes people define consciousness as awareness.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I was curious about what you were thinking, because it's a big I mean, knowing where we are, knowing what existence is super confusing, because even the most agnostic or atheistic person has to admit that their own definition of what it means to be in existence is a little it's a bit of a mystery, and presently, I mean, in more depressed moments of my life, I really suffered with solipsism, or basic, like, does the world exist? Am I the only person? And I remember even asking, a rabbi at one time, which is a stupid thing to do, but I just asked, and he's like, well, how about I smack you in the face? Would I exist? Was his kind of blunt force answer. But like, that was funny too, because it doesn't solve anything. I mean, it's like, if I were to get into a car accident, like, that's still possible. Like, Johnny got its gun. I'm just like imagining it in my bed,
Right.
Can you, I love this question. Can you restate it?
Do we more see, the key is I'm not trying to get you to resign to definitely.
Just restate it.
More detect consciousness or more create it?
Okay, well then I guess we create the world, and there are certain truths that we have no control over. Wow, that is, I mean, it's one of those weird things, because I like to be certain of things, but it's absolutely, I think that's the mystery.
Yeah.
But and I'm gonna go with, we create the world, but consciousness exists beyond our capacity to.
Yeah.
We humans have this incredible arrogance to control everything.
Yep.
You got those power lines right behind you. You got all these other things. So I think we have like a huge desire, but California is a great example of an inability to control, the planet.
Well, look at you.
That's
you
such a fun question. I don't want to.
No, you nailed it, and you evoked three major things. Auden the poet says the mystery of art is that we don't know if it activates or pacifies us. I mean, we're artists. You collect art. You think art is great. It's like the be all and end all. But in essence, it might. That's the mystery.
Activates, or give me those words. Activates or what?
Yeah. Well, he didn't say it directly, but Auden
no,
said,
just whatever he said.
The mystery of art is that we don't really know if it activates us or pacifies us.
There we go. That was great. Well,
it does both. And I like the word.
No. It shouldn't. That's what's amazing, is art should only activate us, and yet the only art that we fucking love or sponsors love. I'm jumping into the Coke Zero here on this. is pacific. Pacifiers are really funny that they exist in only two places: media and babies' mouths. You know, and so, you know, art should never pacify you. It should console you. It should be like, do you seek a pacifier for a friend? Do you like want like just sort of like it, or do you feel coddled and kind of? If you like walked up to somebody and you're like, "You're my good friend," and they just sort of like, you know, you'd be like, "I can't hit you're condescending as it gets." No, art does not pacify us. That's the biggest fucking problem. Is art shouldn't. It should just console us or make us feel more engaged.
But now you're doing a major. I love tangents. So before I go to the other that you evoked, don't be sorry. This is good. I'm going to go to the other two that you evoked, but I'm going to go to one that Brecht, the playwright, says, I don't want art that pacifies. I want that puts you in a trance. I want art that activates you. Yeah, but if you go into a trance at a dead show, or you go into a trance, you can eventually be activated by being pacified.
True.
But the other two that you really evoked,
if that's the artist's intention though, but if like a sponsor were to come in and say, take this out, cut that out, you know, because we need to keep the ad levels right, or the view counts, or the like button, the fucking like button created by, or the view count created by no artist would ever create a fucking view count. You know. But
the other two, you're really anticipating the entire script here. But the other one was, I never bring up, but I love it. Deepak Chopra says a person's identity is a socially induced hallucination. There's no such thing as a person. There's only a bundle of consciousness that's constantly in flux. Now, as much as people want to diss him and say that's pretty an amazing little thing he said, but the one you really evoked, which is really hard to tackle, but I want to say it, is this question McLuhan came up with was, and it's not a statement, it's a question. He says, how about technologies? And by technologies, he means anything we invent, meaning philosophy, pencils, anything we invent, you know. So how about technologies as the collective unconscious, and art as the collective unconsciousness?
I love that.
So it's really, how do you differentiate between conscious and consciousness? You know, so anyways, I don't want to necessarily delve into those questions, but we'll leave them hanging and we can come back to them.
Yeah. But I just very quickly,
go ahead.
I trust technology or electronics better than I trust people. I mean,
that's good.
You know, and they you know, people are just, we are our own 9-volt battery, you know. So I mean, you know, but yeah, these are great. This is fun speaking with you.
Okay, thank you. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
I can't answer that one. I imagine. Well, okay. I don't think light has precognition, so I would say thought.
Yeah. Ethan, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the other idea that's good to know. Hold on, let me check my score. Okay, I'm good. Seems like my score, I'm doing pretty well.
That's the direct hotline to Paul Krasner, because when I asked, I interviewed Paul like 5 times with all these questions, and he's sitting there next to Nancy.
Yeah.
And I'd ask him the question and he would crack up. Then he would whisper to Nancy, how should I answer that? and then she would say, and then he'd go, I'm not going to say that.
Oh my God. I mean, it's so funny. You know, Nancy passed away last month, and I hope for both of them that Paul's completely wrong about his, it would be really funny if, like, she, you know, because I don't know what her faith system was, but it would be funny if, you know,
they're on a side street, a sidewalk street in Venice, because Venice is heaven.
Yeah,
they've lived on a sidewalk street in Venice. They're in the same little place, and they're still having fun.
That's all I want. Yeah, that would be
eating cake. Yeah, the last time we saw him, we ate birthday cake together. And
I was this the giant cone cake? I think I've seen it with like,
No,
with
it
like
was just
strawberries or whatever. I think I saw.
no.
that
We
photo.
we just I forgot the date, but it was
Yeah,
just
that's
some
wonderful.
cheesy little cake we bought.
That's
So
nice. That's nice.
here's Audre Lorde said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Yvonne
Wow.
Rayner says, "You can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest?
Oh God. Okay, jokes work in threes, right?
Yeah.
So magnesium obviously is the answer.
That is a great answer.
Yeah, and turmeric. The two very easy to come by. That's okay. Well, that's actually a really to not. I mean, laughter is an amazing tool.
Yes.
You know, um, I think just sort of, your own independent operating mind is like a rule. We're talking about when you say the master, you're talking about authority and all these other things. I mean, there's certain authority systems you can't fight taxes. You can't fight police. But if you have a bad boss in a job or something, you can easily ask them to explain themselves at points of authority, or and if you're in the street and you encounter like a threat, if you've ever have you ever been mugged or had anybody like just come up to
Not
you?
really. Not that it really stands out. Yeah, I really haven't.
You mentioned Marx, but you mentioned Groucho Marx, but there's actually like an amazing disabling quality to laugh at a mugger. Yeah, I wouldn't say it like works all the time if they're really strung out and just like violently, but a lot of times just empathy can
Yeah.
help. Conversation. You can talk people out of things. I mean, it just sort of trying to make your own script and stuff. I mean, like you were
Yeah,
asking about
that's
speed of thought. But
it's Jack Benny. Your money or
oh
your life. He goes, let me think about it.
yeah.
You know that line? Like if
Yeah. We
your mugger,
we saw him as a.
joke
he was-
your mugger. That's a good. No, the tools you
Did
mentioned.
you say hug your mugger? I like that.
No, joke your mugger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
joke your mugger. I mean, none of that ever works beyond. I mean, it can work and then it won't too. So I mean, don't follow it as a handbook, but basically trust the moment. Like sometimes, if somebody were to come up to I mean, it's so funny. I once got tackled by a police officer and I apologized. And it bothered me so much that my reaction was to be that much of a, I mean, you seem aghast in that I think you understand the exchange there. It's that he was,
no,
and I wasn't even like the appropriate person. He was frustrated that he tackled the wrong person, and I apologized. I wasn't even doing anything. And it was a very life affecting moment because what the hell, I mean, so it's such a weird, I think the answer to the question is that there's so many fucking options to find another tool. And
no, you answered it really well, Ethan.
Yeah.
But you evoked two really good, funny things, which I love when these are playful, but we're serious too.
Oh,
Both
absolutely.
ends of the spectrum. And you said handbook, and I love when they caught W.C. Fields looking at the Bible, and they said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm looking for loopholes."
The Bible's fun as hell. That is
but isn't it like it's like
that's
all
a violent thing. If you really want to follow the Bible as like a guidebook, as so many people do, throw a boulder on somebody if like they smite you or something. I mean, like there's so many options.
But it is any handbook you want to find, like, how can I cheat the handbook? Like we don't read instructions, but you really evoked Frank Zappa's question, who are the brain police? He didn't say, the evil consumer capitalists are the brain police, or your brain is the brain police, your own self-awareness is the brain. He just said, who are? So we don't, he's not trying to say, he's trying to say it's open, its possibilities are endless there.
Yeah.
So here's McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race.
Ooh,
They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions.
I
So
love that.
yeah, we don't know, they might not even know they're doing this, but McLuhan, and then Pound was basically saying, so that we can cope with what we don't like. So everybody's like, wow, Facebook runs the world. Well, cope with it. How are you going to cope with it? And,
Right.
even if they change their name, they're going to still have a presence in our life. And even if you don't do Facebook, you live in a Facebook world.
True.
So there's hidden psychic effects to Facebook that we don't really know. They're like called unintended consequences sometimes, but they're a little deeper. And so if we can look to the artists to reveal them, McLuhan's big question is, why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects, even though the artists reveal them to us?
Wow. I mean, I love you had that antenna. There is that's a great, I mean, that is, I was, so I'm working on right now, I'm going to be recording episode of my show tonight. And one of the things I was thinking about was just sort of the immersive effects of being around technology in the way that we are, because I saw a YouTube comment channel thread for a there's a Jennifer Connelly movie, Frank Whaley movie from the 80s or 90s where the two of them are stuck in a Target overnight. And it's like just some cheesy, romantic movie from the 90s. And the people commenting, though, it was really sad to see the lament. It's a very simple, stupid movie about just two people flirting after hours in a Target over evening. And everyone's like, wow, I can't imagine. There's no way we could even do this. They'd have a camera in there, like everyone, like cops would be there in 10 seconds, or one of them would be on their phone. There's no way that like this simple scenario could exist.
Yeah.
And in our current sort of heavily broadcast, time, and that was a time of receiving, not broadcasting. So like, I mean, if they wanted to turn on any one of the TVs or radios in there, they would definitely bring the media in. But now we are the media. We're just oversharing.
Yeah.
And the thing that I was thinking about, and that I'm going to be talking about tonight is, I remember how ubiquitous smoking was, and you couldn't, I remember one of the last holdouts of smoking that I've encountered, it still might be the case, is in Kansas, in like Wichita or some weird Kansas city. 15 years ago, my wife and I stopped in this one super Motel 8 and opened the door to the adjacent restaurant. And it was packed with people. And when you opened the door, smoke came out the door. It was so full. And I'm sure you have a memory of that being pretty much every restaurant or bar at one point, and or every location.
Your
What's
doctor,
that?
yes,
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
the doctor would be smoking.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think right now that's what we're dealing with the internet, with Facebook or whatever. And these kids or not kids, I don't mean to belittle.
Yeah,
but,
no, I know.
But like they are dealing with their own smoking crisis right now. And it's just broadcast and communication and everything. And eventually they're going to be like, this is an illness that we have. It's just like smoking. It's not as visible. It doesn't smell as bad as cigarettes. And but eventually something's going to happen where they're like, we got to like legislate this. No internet inside a building. If you want internet, you got to go outside, take an internet break. And I think that's and it's laughable, but it's also like, you asked about like, you had this great questions about like thought and body or whatever. Right now our life expectancy is going up, but it might be that, our life expectancy starts to go down with all these stressors. You are constantly under stress when you're posting on the internet, You know, you're an addict to these dopamine hits. And so I don't know. I mean, I guess I love the idea of a collective unconscious. And I really do love the internet. I think I remember it before social media, though, as I'm sure you do. And I remember it being a much more intelligent place. Like it was about, you know, it wasn't about you. It was about what you wanted to discuss, you know.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
Well, it's very, very good what you brought up, because it's basically, how do we cope with what we don't like about our inventions?
Yeah.
So are you more afraid of new ideas or more?
No, I'm not. Well, there's no fear of me, but I'm sorry. I just had to jump on that.
Well, no, the question is, are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Oh, okay. I'm afraid of new confidence.
Nice. See,
New certainty.
New,
you know,
certainty.
like somebody who just shows up and they're like 14 and they're telling me how to fucking like understand moral concepts. And I'm afraid of how that culture is going to age.
Yeah.
Because it's a very artificial. I'm wary of how I mean, I think the climate is an urgency. The one thing that's very good about this current people use the word generation, but I guess thought class, is really climate focused, and that's great. That needs to be the emergency. That should be it. But we need to stop fixing people.
Yeah.
And because evil can't be suppressed, and so it's just so new certainty.
I like that.
Yeah.
You really anticipate all these questions. Okay, Ant.
I'm right here. Hey, told you. I got the hotline right here. Okay,
Dude,
next.
you got it.
Jerry, I just got to get your next question. Hold on. All right, I'm ready. Hit me.
Are you more? No, excuse me. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I have a funny bummer. My earliest memory that I am certain is a memory is my mother, my father, and my brother were going to Disneyland or World and leaving me with my grandparents.
Wow.
And I just remember being on the ground, from like the view of the ground, and just their silhouettes in the door. And somehow I was aware of the fact that it was Disneyland too. But yeah, so that's a bummer of a
okay, memory. Let's stay with that now. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Oh, crazy. How much are your sessions, by the way? Like, what are you charging them for this?
No, I pay you. Here's the line we use in Venice. How much am I not paying you, Ethan? Double.
That's great. Everyone I've ever met from Venice are great people, by the way. You very much included. Well, it obviously, you know, a lot of illness comes from bad experiences. You know, trauma can. So in that result, I think that was the question if it's a blessing or a burden?
It's the more word that's important. Is memory more a blessing or more a curse?
Well, I think. Wow, that's okay. So here's a funny contrast. I actually have always had like a really flexible memory in that it changes kind of quickly. And so I think, but I have very good music memory and other things, which supposedly with dementia, the anger that people experience in dementia is losing like the rigid memory. It's like, oh, I used to remember like what happened on, somebody gave me a date. I would be able to tell you exactly February 18th, 1972. I can tell you exactly what happened on that. And they get very angry over those kinds of memories being lost. I couldn't tell you what I did yesterday. It's at 7 p.m. unless I wrote it down. And so I'm thankful for that. Should my brain decline Wow, I don't. Yeah, it's wild. That's a great
Yeah.
question. I think memory is more a blessing.
Yeah. No, that's what 99% of people say, but that it's just introducing what you just sussed out. So that was good.
Yeah.
Now, within your immediate family and then outside your immediate family, just briefly tell me one role model or someone who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
My grandmother.
What did you get from your grandmother?
Everything. So okay, so right up there, there's some painting that my grandmother did. She
Nice. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
moon. My grandmother was oh, and here's some electronic friends too. So these are better people than people electronics are. But my grandmother suffered from a lot of things, a lot of there. It's not like a totally happy story. She went a little crazy, and she was depressed, and she was also like a really incredible female painter in a world that didn't put the word female and painter together,
Yeah.
And she had her father was one of the leading lawyers in Philadelphia and got found out for embezzling when she was maybe 11 or 12, and so they went from being one of the wealthiest families in Philadelphia to being suddenly penniless. And that really shaped her. Imagine going through puberty right as you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
Tragedy is all about opportunity. Tragedy does, if like you were to lose everything right now, it doesn't affect you as much as it would when you're 8. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. I learned, there's interesting creative people in my family line. On my father's line is a lot of actors. In my mom's line as well, a lot of theater and art. But then there's also like this scientific certainty with my father's side. My dad was a nephrologist. He brought dialysis to Denver, which was really cool. But he didn't realize, how important it would be. So he kind of gave the idea away. And so there's folly with that. My grandmother definitely. My mother said something very interesting about people in our family once with this disdain. And I remember it affecting me in that way. I was 17 or 18. I was told about a family member that my mom said is a wonderful person, but there was all this tragedy that was going on around their trust. And she said that he's a wonderful person, but he's too nice.
Wow.
And it's the worst fucking thing to tell somebody who doesn't understand. You talk about like being young and certain. I remember being like, right, nice is wrong.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I understand her thought on it. It's like, I mean, basically because people are evil, and like when they see an opportunity, and this person in our family had been exploited by that. But that wasn't the presented phrase. It was just like, dude, don't be nice. And I remember, I mean, I'm chronically nice. It's a burden, I mean, and likability is probably my biggest weakness in terms of things that I worry about. It was just a really fucked up thing for my mom to say. I love my mother, but I mean, you're smiling as if you understand what I'm saying here. It's like,
well, I totally, I'm making
Yeah.
a movie on mothers, and the question we ask people is, Alice Walker says, "Mom, you showed me your weakness, and that was your greatest gift to me."
That's beautiful.
That is like, whoa.
Yeah,
You
no
say
doubt.
that to people, after most, So outside, that was really well put. Outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you, what was that impact?
Books. I'm protective of the books that matter to me. But books and art and no. I'm going to actually say, fuck it. One of my closest friends who I knew since 5th grade, still am good friends with. And he lived in my neighborhood, and then his parents divorced, and then I didn't see him for 6 months. And then a friend of mine and I were walking in a mall. This is the 80s. And hadn't seen him. We were maybe 12, and he is walking with his dad, who he's now living with. So his dad got divorced. His dad is suddenly free, and his son is now like his free son. He's like 12 or 13, and he has a mohawk, but a reverse mohawk. So the middle of his head is shaved,
Right.
and like everything is like spiked up, which is what I already have now. You know, basically what God has given me. I now have. But it's startling, and I just remember being like, holy shit, you know. And like he had, from that moment on, he led right up into our 20s in terms of getting ideas before I would ever get an idea, and just showing the permission of those ideas. And then he would find art before I did. He still has better taste in music. So one good friend can really fucking open up your head.
Beautiful. So, did your parents raise you a particular religion?
No, that's also kind of funny. My parents are agnostic Jewish. My dad was born in New York, moved to Miami, and my dad was born in the late 30s, moved to Miami right after World War II, I think. And there was a lot of anti-Semitism in Miami Beach right up into the 50s, probably still. I mean, I seriously doubt, especially with all those quote invading Jews, a bunch of Florida people probably hate all the Jews. My dad has some really terrible stories about being chased into the water and being told to like swim back to Europe and other things. So he kind of moved to New York. He moved to Denver just to be, you know, Denver, be white. But you can't take, I mean, you meet either of them. I told you about my mother's, you know, too nice line. I don't know of many non-Jewish mothers who would say that. You can't take that out of my parents. And so,
yeah.
So I was raised Jewish despite their best efforts.
Do you pray?
Great question. In a non-authority sense, I think I'm delighted by anything I don't see. So I think it would be self-censoring to say that this is the whole fucking planet. You know, what we see. Here it's weird. I just realized in my answer that I do find some God-fearing component of my mind, because I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but I do have a conversation with God I feel very, very, very friendly with. I certainly have faith, just because how fucking wonderful would it be if there is this?
Right.
I mean, I believe in ghosts. I believe in angels. Here's a weird thing. I've had a lot of friends die, and I feel very often, I've also had this with pets, I feel that when they die, I have a closer friendship with them.
Wow. Yeah. If God exists, what do you want God to say to you after you die?
Well, first, I'm curious, are you agnostic, atheist, or do you have any?
Well, I was raised a Roman Catholic. I'm a fluke, man. I never officially, most people go like this. Yeah. What religion did your parents raise me? Blah, blah, blah. You know, Catholic, Jewish.
Was this a Latin Catholic? Like, did you have
Roman
Latin
Catholic?
service?
Roman Catholic.
No, but I mean, like, did you have a Latin-based service, like, or was it in English when you?
Well, I had to take Latin in high school.
Yeah, crazy.
But yeah, I went to Catholic high schools, and then most people go, I was raised this religion. I goes, what age did you check out? And they usually go 13 to 18. And then I go, and then I usually say, are you still practicing? And then I say, do you pray? And really 80% say, yeah, I still pray. I got, you get older and you go, dude, I'll take anything I can get.
I love sorry. I didn't mean
but I'm not like a Catholic who is a normal Catholic. I never really officially checked out. I don't go. I believe, you could see in my yard, I dumpster dive these pictures of Jesus with the beard, the classic painting.
Sweet.
I think that's who Jesus is. And like, I sort of pray. I don't like not doubt if there's a God, but I know it's like,
Yeah.
well, it could be bullshit. And everybody hates religion because of the disservices that
Yeah.
organized religion does. But it does have services. Religion taught us stained glass window, art iconography, singing together. It has religion does have services, but most people don't want to admit that religion has services because
I agree. Yeah, I completely agree.
so I'm a fluke to ask me about that.
Well, I mean, the Catholic service has a beautiful line in it every time, which is the mystery of faith, and then they sing and stuff. And I love that phrase, the mystery of faith. I think that is as simple as it gets, and I think the if they dropped one line from their manifesto, current Catholic manifesto, if they just were like, women be women, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
People would probably consider them the most progressive religious option on the table. There, and historically, as recent as like the 50s to 60s, I mean, they were a huge force for integration and fighting. I mean, Catholic Church is complicated, but I think like if you can find a good church, it's a great deal.
They're anti-war. The nuns taught us anti-war activism, and see this new movie. I know Krasner would cream his jeans. It's called Rebel Hearts. It's about in the 60s in LA, a bunch of nuns, led by the artist Corrida, the great pop artist. They broke away from the church and just did good. But
So I guess I love. I mean, I've gone to a lot of it. One thing I love about church is that you shut up for a fucking hour and a half.
That is good, but
like internally, like you shut up internally, like you're not so self.
Yeah, it's good. So. And what usually people want to flip the questions on me on occasion. It's really rare, and I appreciate you do. But it is funny in that.
Well, I guess because if I were to based on our shared friends, I would think that you're atheist, just because a lot of Paul's good.
My heroes are Frank Zappa and Louis Buñuel, and they're both like this. Louis Buñuel said, "Thank God I'm an atheist."
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, you know what's funny though is that they're atheist, but they have this. Okay, a lot of them. Here I'm gonna just make them a them, because they're good friends, most of them. They have belief systems and they're funny. One is like a psychedelic belief system. It's like, oh my God, I like fucking saw all these like religious mandalas, and then they won't have a belief system, but they'll believe in paranormal things. And so they'll have your sighting example where they found a UFO, and they'll talk about it with like the kind of religious, reverence that would come with the Shroud of Turin.
But it's also, go back to Krasner. I repeat like 5 of his jokes 100 times a year. And one of them is little kids up at bat, Little League. And he goes, "Please God, let me hit a home run." And the pitcher goes, "Please God, let me strike him out." And the clouds part and go, "You superstitious fools." I mean, that's totally.
I think God would want us to not believe in him, right? because the adventure of making us is boring if we're like completely complicit.
What's another Zappa line? Dumb All Over. The song goes, "If we're made in God's likeness and we're dumb, then God's dumb and maybe a little ugly on the side."
It's well said. Well said.
Do evil, this is one you anticipate. You don't even have to pick up the phone line. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Oh, dude. I believe in both options. I think evil people are curious about. I mean, one, I believe I believe in the devil, you know, and I worry about and whether or not the devil is like the creation of other humans or his own presence is unimportant. I think I've encountered, you know, I mean, the devil is weird in some ways because it just sort of can just show up, and it doesn't need to be a personified, like a beard stroking horn dude or something, but it can just be your own binary choices, you know, like the devil can be in you in terms of motivation and, you know, wanting to understand your motivation for desiring something over something else can lead you into a bunch of stuff. But I think other people, evil is definitely, the question was about evil, right?
Yeah, is evil a person or it uses people as a vehicle?
I think evil is a person, and people use people to do their damage. I mean, misinformation is a great example of that. Amazon's a great example of that. There's this current Amazon.com commercial where they show a young man who was unable to get a nursing degree, and I guess like a bunch of people have died in his life or whatever, and he got this nursing degree on Amazon.com, and then he ends with what seems like a prayer in his natural language, and it's the most exploitative bullshit, and they run it every week on NBC News with this music, and you're supposed to think that Amazon is this amazing place because of this cheap fucking deal they got where they gave nursing school to one guy, and I hope they're giving him residuals on these commercials, but still it's like it's total exploitation. You know, this commercial, and there's no, you know, it's evil using a person to make people misinterpret or think that it's really wonderful that Amazon is, you know,
it's a good observation. I need to know these things, and I appreciate it.
No, you don't. Hold on.
No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I don't watch TV, and when people
that's I think why you're saying, don't watch TV.
But I like when people tell me about a commercial, because if you understand, McLuhan was the first guy to say we got to study advertising, and most people think advertising's bad. In his first book, he doesn't say it's good or bad. He says if advertising works, then why don't we use their techniques, which is just symbolist poetry, which is just the act of persuasion. So we know it's like create the disease and offer the cure. But I'm honest, when I have people describe things to me that I missed in pop culture. One of these guys told me like 2 weeks ago about Squid Games, and I didn't know about it yet. And it started to run the world. So I appreciate being turned on to things that miss my radar. So go ahead.
Well, let me we are self-censoring right now with like these value systems that social media has put onto the things that we put out. You know, view counts, likes, share counts, all these things. You do not see that in advertising coming at you from corporate media. You do not see when they are putting an ad out into the world, you don't see the comments in the ad. The bigger the ad, the less the participation. There should be a huge desire, I hope, to remove comments and persuasive bullshit that like we disempower ourselves by putting out stuff that allows others to feed on us and tell us that this is the wrong idea or something like that. But I agree with McLuhan. There's nothing wrong with an ad. I'm drinking a fucking Coke, you know, and
he says, let me just clarify. He says, understanding is not having a point of view. But when you're in your lonely teenage room and you go, I hate Facebook or I love Facebook,
Yeah.
that could be a natural tendency, what you're gravitating towards. But when you're with one or more people, if you take a point of view, you might shut down. Like you telling me about that Amazon ad, I go, oh, I don't like advertisers. Don't tell me. I want to hear it so that I can suss it out how it's.
Yeah. Mine is a totally, I'm totally processing it through my own disgusted filter. There is somebody would probably correct me and say, this is probably an opportunity and the guy is doing great in life and he's happy.
No,
I wanted to say the biggest worry is that somebody isn't back at their home and they're saying, I hate Facebook, but they're on Facebook and they say, I hate myself.
That's that is a great point. So, how do you advise? This is really perfect lead into it. How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? So, I'm going to set up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower. Yeah. If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. That's Alan Watts. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Mm-hmm. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. Wow. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you react to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
For whatever reason, I thought, man, you have some great quotes. This is so much fun. I thought about the difference between James Joyce and Sam Beckett.
Oh, go ahead.
So like Joyce would engage any criticism and just like, talk himself into a corner and be very deeply, openly hurt if somebody disliked his stuff, and Beckett gave you silence every time, and so I think Watts is probably right. There's a tricky line. I think friendliness is a good wall before engagement, because you don't want to look like worried or fearful or something. I mean, a good life, hopefully you don't have too many enemies by the time you're halfway or 2/3 through life, but it's really tough because I think an enemy is sort of like any other kind of poison in your life.
Yeah.
And so just trying to not develop, just try to not it's such a tough question. What do you think would
well, it's hard because I'll tell you the flip. People go, if you don't acknowledge your enemy,
it gets worse.
It doesn't necessarily get worse. It empowers them. So it's
right. Yeah.
I think you want to empower your enemy.
There's the Streisand effect where it's like it's not a enemy, it's just something that's bothering you, and the more you bitch about it, the more people are aware of it.
Oh, that's good. The Streisand effect, because I want to go back. Did you know I am deep into James Joyce, or did you just bring
no?
Because here's the follow-up tangent question: who's better, Joyce or Beckett?
Beckett.
Who's better, Zappa or Beefheart?
Beefheart.
Who's better, Steve Reich or Philip Glass?
Reich.
Oh my God, you got a triple header. So no, you're supposed to say so.
Well, I say that, but we also have all of Ulysses on our wall as a poster. It's in one point. It looks like each letter is the size of an ant.
No, that's good.
It's all of Ulysses on the wall. I would never put a Beckett book up.
No, I love it because this is so much the TV show we started with, the game show, quiz show. But
what's my score right now? How am I doing?
You're like, well, first of all, it's 90 minutes and we only officially have 10 minutes left. And so I says, we got to do like part 2, 3, and 4.
I'm here for it, man. You're great. You're fun to
Yeah.
talk to.
So I asked Zizek, you know this guy Zizek?
The philosopher,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's great. He's a really pop philosopher, smart, and he's way into Beckett's better than Joyce. But what you did was, of course, it's a value judgment, and that's okay.
I'm prejudiced just because Beckett hit me,
dude. I totally.
I mean, but Dubliners is better written than anything Beckett ever wrote.
Well,
I mean,
it's all right. I'm not holding you to it. I'm just saying I love when people do take a point of
James
view.
Joyce. Okay, let me have a little fun with this answer. James Joyce was a better pervert, and so there's like, if that's what you're motivated by, there's some real great shit. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. There's some really great.
That's really good, and
yeah.
If you have,
I would never read the erotic poetry of Samuel Beckett. Like I would never.
But no, it's an amazing phenomenon. Just that Beckett, and so, and it's right. It's same thing with Zapp and Beefheart. You answered it right. Well, but I'm equally. I knew them both.
But I only have one Beefheart record, and I certainly went through a Zappa period that took.
But it's all right. It doesn't matter what's based on. It's just that I love when it comes up. But the funny thing is that, I mean, you have to see this if you haven't. The film called Not Film. It's a documentary on the only film that Samuel Beckett made.
Yeah, with Buster Keaton, right?
Right. It's called Film, but you have to see the film called Not Film.
I've heard about it.
It's amazing. But and then, just to give Joyce's coup, watch the documentary on Shane, the lead singer of the Pogues.
Oh, cool.
And they incorporate the Joyce footage in there so beautifully. So but it was really funny because I'm usually dropping Joyce's name throughout the whole interview, and for you to bring it up before I did, it was like, this is amazing. This guy's got ESP. So
I got the phone. That's all.
Yeah, and it is perfect because the next question on the script, we're supposed to do at least 40. We're on number 12.
Oh shit.
That is, James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin about 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Yeah. Ethan, why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
That's a great question. I think it's because films give you other lives. I mean, it's I mean, when you think back to a memory that you've experienced versus a film that really hit you, they're equally two-dimensional, I think, in your memory, right? So I think films have sort of like this I mean, now we got virtual reality too, which is even wilder. But maybe variety, maybe like a desire to like get out of our life. I think that Joyce might be talking about this great tree, but maybe not everyone has a fucking good tree that they can hang out with.
Well, it's also bullshit if nobody catches me, because that's what he did with literature. He says, well,
exactly.
I did the same. It's not like it's like
why would I read? Yeah, I mean, Finnegan's Wake expects a lot more of the audience than like a fucking Buster Keaton movie. I mean, so that's very I think he's just being competitive. He was a writer and not a filmmaker, and he was just trying to. You were talking about, okay, so to go back to that question about what motivates evil, that motivates evil right there. Is competition. It's like, this is bullshit. I'm not doing this. I'm not the best at this. This is bullshit. But I mean, I think Fritz Lang before, especially before he came to America, those movies are as good as anything Joyce ever did. Like,
Well, it's very interesting because Joyce talked to Sir J. Eisenstein to make Ulysses into a movie.
oh, that's funny.
And if you see
Wow.
Joseph Strick made a version of Ulysses for cinema that's actually pretty good.
I'd be curious. I have like a record of who's of the woman, the female character talking for two sides.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. But it's amazing. Anyone to drop Finnegan's Wake before I did in my interview, that's like amazing. And it is so weird because now we've got to do part 2 and 3 of this. But
well, let me just tell you, you want to get a question before you know it. Magnesium. I'm telling you.
I got
magnesium.
I got it right here in my
it's neuroplasticity. That's what I'm talking about.
See this is all my vitamins I take every morning.
Oh God, that is a haul. That is
with
really
my
good.
juicer. I believe I want to believe in what do you call them, supplements, but let's can you go an extra 10 minutes?
Gladly.
Okay. So then what first attracted you? Because I mean, basically, here's what you're listed as: archivist, sound artist, and cartoonist. I mean, if you're at a party, somebody asks you, what do you do? What do you just say in general off the top of your head?
That.
You say those 3, archivist.
Yeah, well, now I would actually say sound artist and archivist. I don't really want to, although,
you'd still do cartooning.
Yeah, I still do comics. Hold on, let me, like, right off here, I got this biography done very recently that I did with Scott Marshall, who's incredible. But comics take a while.
Yeah. But let's go with archivist. This is an amazing thing because I am definitely an archivist too. And some wives might go, dude, clear that shit out of our house.
Yeah.
No, it's valuable archives.
No doubt. Well, I mean, there was a question earlier about like history. I can't remember your exact question, but basically archiving is important for keeping leadership from controlling the history moving forward,
Of course, it's very important. It's history. But what first attracted you to pursue being an archivist? Like, walk us through did you go to college and study something, and then at one point, or you just start collecting comics when you're a kid and go, I'm an archivist? I mean, when did you hear the word and go, that's what I want to be?
Thank you. That's a really, really fun question. I went to school for printmaking and for sound at in Chicago. And my first job getting out of school was wonderful. It was working at Encyclopedia Britannica which was right across the street. Encyclopedia Britannica was right across the street. And at the time, I thought it was me getting a job because of a really good ability that I had with color, which is still a very good skill I have, which is kind of diminishing. Now you can get an app that can do this, or you can get a light gun that can do it. But it used to be that having a good color eye, being able to discern, what colors made what colors, was a really, really good talent for books getting printed, because you could reduce the color frequency on press. And I got a job as sort of like the head digital proofer at Britannica right out of school. And I only realized going through a couple press runs, which can take up to 40 hours where they print the books, that it's really metabolism that they're buying, because they need somebody that can stay awake for 40 hours and keep consistent, that your eyes get fatigued just like your ears. But that's a bit of a long road to answering your question. When I was at Britannica, I got exposed to everything they had in the basement, and I worked with all those documents. And I really just fell in love with the weird vibe that you would get when you would open something that was, from the 50s or 40s, and you actually really felt like a connection to that time in a way that the physical object can do. And it's weird too, because it's any one of those physical objects. It just needs to be from that time. So even microfilm from the 40s will make you feel like you're in the 40s when you're looking at microfilm of something that was filmed in the 40s. But microfilm itself has to be from the 40s or 20s or whatever. But that just sort of made me love the time travel aspect of working with old documents. And then to answer sort of the focus of stuff, I grew up in the 80s, and my elementary school was adopted into every Reagan program they could adopt, every kind of fear-mongering thing. And so we had all sorts of really weird, heavy messaging that even when I was 8, I knew was, bogus. I knew it was like, ridiculous. And then the whole public service campaign of, your life on drugs, things like that, your brain on drugs, and they show the egg getting broken into a skillet. I remember being excited by that. Thinking that here's my brain, but if I take drugs, it can turn itself into an omelet. Like, that was really more exciting to me than retaining the brain in the shell itself. And so I think even as early as that, it was interesting how, are you familiar with the ad that I'm referring to? It's from the 80s, where they go like, this is your brain.
Oh yeah.
And so I remember being young and them saying like, don't do drugs. But if they didn't say that, if they just said comparatively, this is your brain on drugs, and then they crack it and they go, any questions? And I would be like, well, yeah, that's exciting. So without the authority system saying don't do drugs, paid for by don't do drugs, right? That's the way they would say it. It's like, any questions? Paid for by, preservation of don't do drugs. And so I think my whole motivation with getting into doing archiving of that material was to be the last word on it, not to remove the person that says paid for by this opinion, And so a lot of those old ideas, I started to collect first in an archiving site called Comics of Problems, which is all that material that doesn't age well. So it would be a comic book about fetal alcohol syndrome, but the cover shows a pregnant woman who shouldn't be drinking. So they show on the cover a woman smoking a cigarette, pregnant. And, so it sort of just shows the way that these messages don't age well, because now it's worse to smoke when you're, or just as bad to smoke when you're pregnant. But so I try and collect those things. And I think I've gone off course a bit, but it's basically, I just sort of love keeping that stuff in conversation. I love an egg getting cracked.
You could actually make a career and a job. Like I say to students when I talk, sometimes I say, get your job and your life as mixed up as possible.
Yeah.
You loved archiving. You loved the time travel that you got from it. And it also could help pay the bills. So now, because we are going to wrap it up pretty soon. And I'm totally honest. This is the first time in 40 years of interviewing where I'm saying specifically, Clinton's got to put on the thing, part 1.
Oh, please.
Most people I've done is like, I come back to them 10 years later.
No, I would love to. I want to hear all 40 of your questions.
We literally only got through a third of the normal.
I think you just said that I think you just said I won. Oh, part 1. Part 1. Haha, that's a joke. Play on words.
It should be Ethan, part 1, because he won.
Part 1. No, these questions are absolutely amazing. And I mean, I think just quickly, yes, don't get a job doing. If you're right now debating between a job that pays 1/2 or 1/3 of another job and the job that doesn't pay shit is what you want to be, who you are, because the job is going to dominate your mind the whole day, most of your life. Don't go for the money, but I don't think Bob Dylan ever got a job.
That's good.
I don't
You
think
know,
he ever. I don't think he ever even
you know-
worked in a. I don't think Bob Dylan has ever worked a day in his life.
well, Richard Berry, who wrote Louie Louie, he was on the radio in LA on Johnny Otis's radio show, and he says, "Job, I can't even spell job." So I use that line for 30 years as a joke. And one time a guy said, "Can you spell broke?"
Oh well, I mean, yeah, that's all. Well, and I know we're at time, but think about how expensive it is to live in this fucking Facebook world. You got to afford the computer, the Wi-Fi, the gadget, the phone, the lifestyle to put yourself on Instagram.
Yeah.
Do you think you just, it used to be that the one appliance in your house would maybe be a TV and a toaster and a radio, and
That's good. But listen, Ethan, I want to ask you one more question before we wrap it up. But I wanted to tell you the good example is Clinton. There are friends of mine who are like janitors, or Clinton works at a liquor store in Canada, so that he doesn't waste his brain cells at his job. So then he can go home and find ways to do Zoom with, like we're doing it through 8x8, which doesn't cost a lot. So he knows the mechanics on how these MacBooks are working. And at the same time, he's this amazing scholar. So Clinton's not just a button pusher, but
Clinton, you're doing it right.
He is doing it right. And he knows he has to fret sometime about that, but don't worry, fret on, because you're right. But now let's just go in the sound. So you did that, but how did you pick sound as an artist as opposed to music? Like, did you grow up what did you grow up listening to? In what format?
I have the best.
And then how did you find what I define as sound is like avant-garde 20th century music?
Yeah, you were asking me about Riker Glass or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm saying
I actually have I have a very funny. I know we're at time, and this is a really funny ending story on like why I like really strange stuff, sound wise. One, the sound department that I went to. I mean, I'm sitting right now around like some really wild equipment, and it gives me an immense amount of comfort. If I were sitting in a room right now with an equivalent, I'm around like 20 or 30 pieces of electronics. If there were 20 or 30 people in here, I'd feel very uncomfortable. But like, I love
20 or 30 keyboards or guitars.
I've got 6 keyboards in here. Here, let's see. So I got
I see.
I got stuff like that. But there's in terms of where my aesthetic came from. One, there's the anti-drug, weird kind of 1980s soundtrack. Any sitcom or TV show. I love Hill Street Blues. That is weird as hell, and the music is bizarre, but formatively, my parents had the most dented taste in music. My dad got a CD player before there was any CDs really commercially available. My dad's always been incredibly smart with electronics. My mom has the good ear, but my dad has been soldering and putting stuff together my whole life together. And so that's been always great. The idea of just working with this, soldering iron and putting it, like he wired up the whole house with like intercom systems and all these things. An incredible. I love both my parents. But my dad's taste in music was awful. And he got one sampler CD that had just the tinniest, sharpest, most painful music possible to prove the fidelity opportunities of CD over records. So records would be largely bass or sort of organic noises, but CDs were best being sharp. So do you remember the song Funky Town?
Yeah.
You know how painful that fucking song is? My dad would play Funky Town every night for 17 years, I think. And then my mom would only listen to Soundtime musicals and Dreamgirls soundtrack and other Broadway plays on tape. And it just was like the best, most poisonous bunch of shit, and it just made me. I don't know. I think I was exposed to music making you feel weird when it wasn't willingly
Oh
something
my
you wanted.
God.
And so the idea of just sound being able to manipulate your mood was really exciting to me. And so
But
I
let
think
me ask you really
yeah.
quick. So this is exactly how Zappa discovered Varese,
Oh
because
yeah.
they were using the Varese record to show you the quality of a stereo system.
Yeah, and Zappa really got
He
totally
freaked,
preoccupied with the Fairlight and
yeah,
the synthesizer and the
and
sampler, like you did. Sorry, I thought
Synclavier. He freaked out
yeah.
on Synclavier. But I mean,
Oh, you're right. You're right.
did you actually hear Stockhausen and Varese through your dad, or did you find those kind of guys? Or
Those
like
things,
I was
well,
thinking,
no, that
or
Denver would
Giorgio Moroder was the other guy.
he's
Did you
great.
get? Yeah, but I mean, who
Denver
did you find that were
Denver
doing?
exposed me to that. Denver has an amazing sort of subculture history. The Beats stayed in Denver a whole bunch. There's a place called Brothers Bar in downtown Denver that I sought out.
Oh, you mean, yeah, Beats? The Beats had that college there, Naropa.
Naropa too, yeah, and
Yeah. So you've basically studied what's called avant-garde 20th century music.
yeah, and there were amazing coffee shops in Denver that would expose you to those people.
Right.
And then Wax Trax Records had a downtown music store. There was a lot of punk and goth people. So
Right.
Denver made me. I'm thankful for Denver. Denver was, including my dad's CD player and Funky Town. Denver was just great.
Who's the artist? Who's the artist on Funky Town?
Oh, I don't fucking know. I actually should know that. Oh, you got me. Oh no, hold on.
No.
Oh shit, I just lost the point.
I'll Google it. Don't worry.
I just lost the point. I can tell you that right now, but it's just that. You know, it's like, oh god, you just start.
Well, you know what's I'm not a Beach Boys fan, but the fact that Good Vibrations gave us all the theremin sound.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing how we learned theremin through that, and that science fiction movie. No, I really like the fact that you brought out. See, I wanted you to drop names, Stockhausen, blah blah blah, but what you said is how the anti-drug commercials soundtrack made you feel. That's like, how does music make you feel?
Yeah, or like a weird videotape that you got to watch in class of that same anti-drug thing, and the teachers played that fucking videotape every year for like 4 years, and it is warbling because its tape head has never been rewound right. And so its fidelity is like drugs, like you hear this bump in the magnetic tape. That's more exciting. I would say if you wanted to I mean, I love Twilight Zone and Outer Limits and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a great sound art too,
My friend in Little Rock, Arkansas had this job where he'd put your Super 8 films on a VHS tape. That was part of his job. So he would pick the music to put in the background. So these people just have their home movies with some you want to have nice music. And so he put Zappa's orchestral music on, and the woman brought the tape back and she goes, the music was going all okay, and then it just went chaotic.
my dad, this is funny. My dad visits me in Chicago the first year I've moved there, and I have John Coltrane ballads on. And he's like, this is really great. Who's this? And I said, it's John Coltrane. And he goes, oh, that's awesome. He goes to a music store in Denver and he tells the music store guy, my son was listening to this John Coltrane. Can you give me some of his music? And ballads is the only easy listening, pleasant Coltrane record in the world. The guy gives him some Church of John Coltrane stuff that he puts into the same music that he's been playing, the same sound system that he's built to play Funky Town at maximum blast. My dad thinks it's like World War III. Horrified. So it was really funny. Jerry, we got to talk again, bud.
Okay, so let's close it out with the one question I always ask at the end. What gives you the most optimism?
Oh gosh. Well, moments like this, just connecting with people,
Yeah.
agreeing, not agreeing, just that's a great question, because now we've got like such a fucking dire world. I think opportunities that shift in perspective, because I am a very optimistic person. So what gives me the most optimism? I think wow, that's, I don't want to be tongue tied there. It's such an interesting question, because I think life just gives you the opportunity of life. Like, find, a lot of people say, like, I need this vacation, or I need this expensive indulgence, but you can have an incredible feeling just fucking being alert and aware, and something as stupid as like a caterpillar going across a window can totally help you out. You totally dropped out. I'm optimistic. Oh, then Jerry comes back. I'm optimistic about that. So like that. Just the beauty of life, I guess.
Yeah.
Just being awake to it,
Yeah. It's
not to spend your whole fucking day saying what hurts or what sucks or what's wrong or this is dismal, the planet's on fire, but just I'm alive and it feels terrific. And
Yeah, it was beautiful, Ethan. And thank you and definitely I'm going to send you the link, the email with all the upcoming dates. So nail your part 2.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I appreciate it. But I do have to correct you on the last question. You got the answer wrong.
Shit.
The answer was, pick up your phone. It was, what gives you the most optimism? Magnesium.
Hold on.
I got it.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's actually true. Hold on, let me check my own book. No, it's turmeric. It's turmeric. Sorry.
With the splash of pepper, black pepper,
which is very good for your gut.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's like there's weird. It's crazy how some of these simplest things are just, our body is designed to seek out in nutrition, and you don't and also science has made things for people that struggle with stuff like I mean, it's crazy to think that before antidepressants we had basically either like rev them up with amphetamines or dope them down with benzos, but magnesium, that's okay. You got me, Jerry. It's tied 1-1. We will compete
That's my
again.
part 2. Tie. Look at 1 + 1 = 11.
Oh, there we go. Very good. Very, very good.
All right, dude, over and out. Thank you immensely. Super cool.
Yeah, a delight talking to you.
Super cool. I can't even find which button. Okay.
Yeah, what do I got to do here? Do I hang up? On you?
You just hit that X and we're out of here. Bingo.
All right. Very good speaking with you, Jerry. Take care.